Greetings, comrades! One of the things I'm constantly asked to do on this channel is to say something about Russian women, which is not surprising since almost 90% of my audience are men in the prime of life. Now it seems like a good occasion, Valentine's Day. But what can I say about Russian women in general? Only that they are great, the best on earth. And I'm not the only one who thinks so. The demand for Russian brides is extremely high all over the world. Moreover, Russian women starting from the 1980s have been very much interested in marrying a foreigner. As a result, over the past half-century, many dating agencies have emerged that specialize in bringing together a foreigner dreaming of a Russian wife and a Russian girl dreaming of a foreign prince. Well, let's talk about it. Today we're going to talk primarily not about the desire of many people to meet a beautiful Russian girl and marry her. Nothing against it, true love knows no borders. Today we'll talk more about the phenomenon of mail order brides and the international marriage agencies that deal with it. Again, the term is a bit outdated and some people even perceive it as offensive, but it is recognizable, so we will use it. Today, this area is rather vague due to the popularity of online dating and other more decentralized platforms, so it is difficult to accurately evaluate the popularity of Russian girls in the industry. But according to data from 15 years ago, in a sample of 6,000 mail order brides, 76% were of Asian origin, while 28% originated from former Soviet Union countries such as Russia and Ukraine. Today you can visit any website that promises to find you a bride, or any community of passport bros, find the section 10 countries where it's best to look for a wife, and Russia will definitely be there. By the way, why is that? Where does this popularity come from? Again, let's refer to the online agencies themselves. What do they say about Russian or Ukrainian or Belarusian wives? There are thousands of lines of praise out there. Here are some of those reviews of Russian wives. Debatable, but okay.
Doubtful. No, okay.
In brief, the whole gist is summarized in 2 sentences. Russian women are ideal wives. While they are so beautiful and smart, they still think about family, children and household first and foremost. Western women are inferior to them in terms of appearance, and they also think only about career and money. A total nightmare. Let's discuss whether it's all true or not at the end of the video. And now, a small excursion into history. At what point men from Europe and the United States began to dream eagerly of distant Russian hotties? We can even go back to the 18th century when Empress Yelizaveta Petrovna was considered the first beauty of Europe, but let's not. We'll go back to the late 1980s, when the Iron Curtain collapsed and the two sides of the Cold War were able to take a closer look at each other. It was then that the idea of getting a Russian wife entered the minds of Western men en masse. And Russian and other post-Soviet women got the idea that their own dissatisfaction and unsettledness could be solved by simply changing their place of residence. Again, in the USSR it was hard to consider such a thing. Under Stalin, marriages with foreigners were forbidden. In 1969 the ban was lifted, and in the 1970s several thousand international marriages were concluded in the USSR. The state still put all sorts of spokes in the wheels of those who wanted to leave the USSR, including through marriage. However, the Soviet Union did collapse, and after its fall, a beautiful, white-skinned, family-oriented Russian woman found herself positioned as an undervalued commodity on the domestic marriage market. There was a difficult economic situation in Russia in the early 90s, the simple shortage of men, and the fact that for ex-Soviet citizens, the West, primarily the USA, looked like a distant paradise, and getting there for permanent residence was like winning the lottery. It goes without saying that there was a real hunt for foreigners in the big cities of Russia. In this hunt, all means were good and the tactics were completely different. Even professional prostitutes cherished the dream that their foreign clients would fall in love, ask them to marry and take them to faraway New York. As a result, Russia has developed quite a reputation in the West. Are you looking for a hot wife or just an affair? Drop everything and come to Moscow. You will be showered with attention from young and gorgeous girls, even if you are old, pot-bellied and bald. But what about those girls who didn't have the opportunity to meet foreigners somewhere, and foreigners who didn't have the opportunity to visit? That's what dating and marriage agencies were for. They were connected with their foreign clients by faxes and telephones, and brides were invited to place their advertisements in special catalogs distributed abroad. Inside were pictures, decent but sometimes with a hint, and a short text, something like this. Natasha dreams of having a family and wants to please her husband. Or Alona wants to create a cozy home and be happy with her husband. Age and phone number. You leaf through, choose, call the one you like or write a letter to the agency. Naturally, both the catalog itself and communication with the potential bride were not free of charge. How did brides choose their husbands, if there were several candidates for the goods in the catalog? As cliché as it may sound, but often by passport. A US passport was considered the strongest, because girls wanted to go to America. The future husband and wife often did not even see each other in person before the move. They either called each other on the phone or corresponded by mail. With the development of technology, this field went more and more online. Video interviews appeared instead of photos in catalogs. By the beginning of the 2000s, more than 600 American and 200 Russian marriage agencies were already operating on the internet. And nowadays, the internet, of course, has become the main place to look for Russian brides. If we go back to our time, the situation has certainly changed in many respects. I want to believe that such marriages have become a little less like buying a piece of meat at the market and a little more like genuinely finding a partner for life. I mean, it's one thing to leave the poverty-stricken hungry Russia of the 90s. You could really understand the desire to run anywhere and to anyone. Now, any girl has some sort of choice, and most importantly, the opportunity to pick her own life partner, albeit from another country. And I think that Russian women's self-esteem has grown during this time too. But many businesses are still built on the simple dream of marrying a foreigner in Russia. Romantic tours, marriage agencies, speed dating, internet websites, all with the notation for meeting foreigners. Yes, girls still voluntarily place themselves in all sorts of catalogs, albeit now a little more civilized. They're not afraid of mail-order bride status. What drives women to do this? First of all, the idea of the USA or the West as a kind of paradise on Earth. Once you get there, all your life problems will be immediately solved. Yes, 80% of women on sites like this still just want to go abroad. No matter how, no matter with whom, country, language, age of husband, whatever.
I really don't care at all.
Secondly, let's be honest, Russian men are not always seen as an ideal choice for marriage. First of all, there are simply fewer of them, historically, starting with World War II when the best part of the Russian gene pool was literally wiped out and continuing through the 90s and into the present. Secondly, they drink a lot, they are poor, lazy, ugly, poorly groomed, spineless, irresponsible, and 1,000 other epithets. So, a woman looking for a foreign husband may be quite independent, support herself well, but for some reason, because of business opportunities, or for the sake of children, or because of disappointment in Russian men, still dreaming of migrating to the West. Or to the East, actually. There's been a bit of a revolution here. Now the most enviable groom is a sheikh from Dubai, not John from Texas. However, usually girls are invited to Dubai for other purposes than marriage. Plus, of course, all marriage agencies advertise themselves aggressively not only among men, but also among women. On any website there will be hundreds of happy stories. A few years ago I lived in Omsk, worked as an accountant at a factory, my alcoholic husband left me with a child. Then I met John through this agency. Now I live in California, I have my own 2-story house, a car, a loving husband who loves my kid too. And that may even be true sometimes. Besides, the services of most international marriage agencies are free for girls, so why not? Even paid services are useful. help from translators, arranging romantic tours, trips to the fiancé, assistance with visas. It all sounds quite appealing. Let's go to the other side of the coin. Men. Why would they do that? Well, it seems like a silly question. Who would turn down a young and beautiful wife? The average age of emigrating brides in the turbulent 90s did not exceed 28 years. From 1998 to 2010, about 75,000 young Russian women, often with higher education, intelligent, creative, with knowledge of languages, left for the United States alone. Has anything changed now? Maybe the popularity of Russian brides is declining. Obviously, there is no clear metric that accurately assesses and explains the attractiveness of women from a particular country to foreign men. But in general, we can safely say that today there are three main reasons for the popularity of Russian women, especially among men of, let's say, traditionalist and conservative views. Russian women are considered to be among the most beautiful in the world. This is confirmed by numerous surveys. Russian women, on the one hand, are not yet sufficiently spoiled by the woke Western agenda, and on the other hand, they are still white and closer culturally to the inhabitants of the USA and Europe than the girls from the Southeast Asia, for example. And finally, Russia is still a developing country, which means that girls from Russia, in theory, should be immensely grateful to someone who will take them to a first world country and give them a chance at a better life. This is roughly what thousands of men from all over the world think about when they leave applications for a Russian wife on the websites of online agencies. How does it look from their side? Now it all happens online, of course, but the payment formats vary widely. Sometimes it's simply a subscription fee, about $100 per month for full access to the women's profiles, or payment for each contact received, or even for each email or call, and it's strictly forbidden to give contacts in messengers. Sometimes it's a 6-month contract, during which the agency pledges to find you a suitable couple on its own. And everything seems fine, but let's be honest. What do these couples where the bride is going to move in with her husband to another country look like most of the time? There are three categories. The first is former compatriots. Well, it's pretty self-explanatory. The second category is more or less young people who met as a rule while working together in Russia or abroad or on a tourist trip, fell in love and got married, no questions either. And finally, the third category is when the dating happened precisely with the assistance of an international marriage agency. So in this case, the man was purposefully looking for a bride abroad. Why? Because he can't live without Russian women. He wanted to save her from poverty. Fed up with woke pink-hat activists? No, usually he is looking for a Russian bride through an agency simply because in his country a woman of the same age and qualities would not even look in his direction. He sees Russia as a third world country where he can still order a bride for $100, and hopes that his young wife will love him with all her heart, turning a blind eye to his boldness, pot-belly, trailer on wheels, slow-paying job, and a billion unhealthy addictions. However, who are we to judge these gentlemen? Let's rather list the dangers that may await those who decide to use the services of such agencies. Moreover, dangers for both sides. The very first one is obvious. Sometimes the stated goals of both men and women in the profiles are drastically different from their real ones. Not all men register and pay to meet potential brides in order to marry them. Create a profile, get acquainted, come visit, go on a date, and not with one, but with several. It's just sex tourism with extra steps. Wouldn't it be easier to just visit the place and download Tinder and you know the rest? On the opposite side, the same thing. Choose a good-natured fool, seduce him, move to America, get a quick divorce, sue half of the property, and live happily ever after. There are tons of scammers too. Fake brides who will try to pull all the money from you for gifts, tickets, treatment of a dying auntie, and so on and so forth. Fake grooms who scam naive, desperate women for the same thing, or just fake websites where there are no brides and grooms, and you are surrounded to communicate with a bunch of bots which extract the last pennies from you. Even if the website is real, the same rule applies here as on Tinder. Marriage agency has no mission to arrange a happy life for you. It has the goal of getting more money out of you. It's just business. Quite a legal business, even if it sometimes goes hand in hand with other not so legal businesses of all sorts of modeling agencies, and then escorts, and then the worlds of prostitution and human trafficking are not that far away too. Going back to the same trend of Dubai sheikhs. On the internet you will find a lot of ads for just chatting with foreigners for money, which in fact will turn out to be anything from webcam to prostitution. But even without the extremes, it's all just a cat in a bag. A woman is unlikely to be able to detect a shady fiancé in time after a few months of letters and a couple of meetings. Then you move in with him, marry him, and he turns out to be an alcoholic with a pile of mental problems, gambling addiction, and occasional temper tantrums. Oh, and even if there isn't some kind of gruesome violence, it is still easy for the husband to start exploiting, physically or psychologically, his wife's immigrant status. On the flip side, the husband also gets a cat in the bag. A caring young beauty, or a master of Photoshop, who within a second of marriage will easily turn into an evil witch and go off to find herself a better lover. Why not? She has already got the most important thing. Legalization in your country. Quickly realized that you are a loser, or knew about it in advance, and went on looking for a better option. Well, or it will turn out that all stereotypes about Russian wives are just stereotypes, and all women are different. Your fiancé may not want to sit at home, cook for you every day, and give birth to 5 children. Imagine that! All of the above does not exclude the possibility of a successful and even happy family union. I am sure that among the clients of dating agencies there are many good, just for example, not overly self-confident men, who just do not find common ground with modern Western girls and want a soft, docile, homely Russian girl who's ready to love and create a family. Isn't that a normal desire? Are there no such girls in Russia and you've been lied to? Of course there are. Except that such girls simply will not look for a foreign husband 20 years older than them through a marriage agency. So you want a Russian wife? So get a grip and look for her yourself. You'll save money, you won't run into scammers, and the result will almost certainly be better than through an agency. Do you want to buy yourself a human commodity? Then first of all, call a spade a spade. And secondly, do not complain if it turns out that the goods you receive will not be exactly what you ordered. Thanks for watching! And as always, a huge shout out to my biggest supporters: Елизавета Zakharova, Kirill Klimuk, Zeman Berze, Jimmy Albin, Petr Ilich and Marina Holiday. See you guys next time!